Whether you're religious or not, you may have probably heard of the dogma homosexuality is forbidden by God. No one knows where this quote comes from. It is just universally widespread in almost every corner of the world. But is it true?
The scripture says that homosexuality is a sin. So, I believed it before and I still believe it now.
And to the question of is homosexuality a sin, which is a question I think many people ask about, I would say that according to God's word, it is.
Jesus never mentions homosexuality, never talks about it.
Advocates of the traditional belief commonly make reference to 6 biblical passages which they claim to carry the message that Christianity is against homosexuality. These passages are called Clobber Passages. They are Genesis chapter 19, 1-38, also known as the story of Sodom and Gomorrah, Leviticus 18:22 and 20:13, Romans 1:26-27, Corinthians 6:9-11, and Timothy 1:9-10. The most often cited ones are from Leviticus. You shall not lie with a male as with a woman. It is an abomination. If a man lies with a male as with a woman, both of them have committed an abomination. They shall surely be put to death. Their blood is upon them. Let's put the context aside for just now and take the words literally to begin with. The message about the negative characterization seems crystal clear. However, people also tend towards disregarding the suggested death penalty. If someone is to stick to every word in the Bible, shouldn't he or she include capital punishment as part of the equation? If killing homosexuals as suggested in scripture shouldn't be allowed to happen in modern days, for the reason that humanity has progressed, why can't we also consider the stigma attached to homosexuality as a thing of the past? For example, in biblical times, homosexuality was not understood as a neutral identity. The idea of homosexuality only came into existence in the 19th century. It is probable that people in Jesus' time believed everyone was by nature heterosexual, meaning men love women and women love men. In fact, centuries ago, same-sex behavior would evoke a scenario where an older man molests a boy, which is surely a sin, rather than mutual consenting adults falling in romantic love. This cultural framework will also explain why verses that can be associated with lesbianism occupy much less space than male-man relationships. Women sexually abusing young girls was simply not widely discussed in the past. It is undeniable that God would prefer heterosexuality over homosexuality. In Christianity, the telos, the ultimate purpose of humanity, is procreation, which requires the union of a man and a woman. However, giving less preference does not equal hatred. Sexualities, along with other inborn differences, contribute to building a world full of individualities in glory of God's grace. Matthew Vines, a homosexual born and raised in a traditional Christian household, posted his coming out of the closet speech on YouTube. In that video, which has gained over 1.1 million views, he says, "I'm gay. I didn't choose to be gay." What is implied in this quote is that homosexuality is a congenital human trait, not something that can be controlled by free will. If something is inborn, it cannot and should not be considered a sin. Unfortunately, some people use biblical verses to their own personal agendas, which reflect their own biases. As Michael Sandel says in his lecture on same-sex marriage at Harvard, the love of humanity is a noble sentiment, but most of the time, we live our lives by smaller solidarities. This may reflect certain limits to the bounds of moral sympathy, but more important, it reflects the fact that we learn to love humanity not in general, but through its particular expressions. If you encounter people who insist on the idea that homosexuality is a sin, an abomination, or an impurity, I would like you to ask them this question: does God love us all with full acceptance despite our differences? If so, why should you boycott your fellow believers believers based on natural differences. After watching this video, have I changed your mind about Christianity and homosexuality? Comment below and share with us your thoughts. Before you go, don't forget to subscribe and click the bell icon. See you next time.